Let me talk about the Department of Insurance for a bit. This is an area I know of real frustration. Uh, we may very well be in circumstances where uh, fire insurance, it may be available, but so expensive and with so much red tape that it may not be something that people can actually do, which is a real difficult problem. And so there are some changes that are coming. My office was notified this week that the Department of Insurance is about to roll out some changes that could help many of you trying to get insurance coverage. Soon, insurance companies will have to consider the things you have done to harden your home and create the dispensable space, everything you and your neighbors have been working on. And if you are denied a policy, you'll be able to file a complaint with the Department of Insurance, and they will investigate. The insurance companies have their own issues, obviously, with the risk and pricing and all of that. The Department of Insurance has significant oversight, and I think the signal is getting very, very clear, both from the legislature and from the Department of Insurance, that insurance companies need to do what they promised they would do in their coverage, but they also need to understand that we cannot price coverage so exorbitantly or even deny it in certain areas. Insurance companies need to recognize that they have a responsibility here as well. And of course, then there's the FAIR plan. I'm not sure why they call it that. We all know it's not real fair. It is still too costly. We hear that from you and others. We know that. If you have an issue with the insurance company and you were assigned to go through the FAIR plan, if you have difficulty, if you want some help, you can call my office. We can help walk you through. We can help you also file that complaint to the Department of Insurance if in fact you get denied. All my staff from the Fresno office is here and ready to serve you, and we really mean it. Some people, many of you here have my personal cell phone. And people have said, well, Jim, I don't want to bother you. Bother me, that's the job description. And my staff wants to be bothered. They love to unwind and untangle some of these bureaucratic things that you face. We've gotten pretty good at it. We are assigned legislative liaisons from all of these divisions and departments. We have good relationships with them. And when we call and we talk to them, we tell your story. And we ask, please walk a mile in their shoes and figure out a way to say yes, not no, or wait, or maybe. That's it for me. We have a real group of wonderful people and experts that are going to come and present now. It is a privilege to represent this area. I want you to know it means a lot to me. It also means a lot to Nathan Magzig, who is your Board of Supervisors member. He is here. He has a few remarks, and he'll give you some information about the county as well. And then we will get into the presentations by our experts and team members. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Patterson, I appreciate that. I thought what I would do is I would talk about some fuel reduction projects and some hazard tree removal that the county's doing, and also what we're planning on spending over the course of the next really 12 to 18 months, and what we've spent the last 3 years on trying to make sure that our roadways are cleared of hazard trees. And two, I serve on the Yosemite Sequoia Resource Conservation and Development Council. One project I want to share with you that they've been working on for the last 2 years is in the Blue Canyon area, and they are working to treat about 450 acres to thin it out to try to stop a fire if we have a fire breakout in Blue Canyon, because as you know right now, Shaver is still vulnerable to a fire, and if we get a fire in Blue Canyon and it starts working its way back up to Shaver, that is a concern of ours. So that group that I'm a part of has $1 million. We're spending it down. We're doing everything we can to try to put as many layers of protection in place to make sure that the mountain community is taken care of. So fire prevention projects around the Shaver area and along 168. We have, this has been completed. We've cleared nearly 2 miles of fire escape roads of dead and dying fall hazard trees and ground fuels in and around the Wildflower Village development. That's completed. End of Mountain Heather Lane to State Route 168. End of Littlefield Road to Wild Rose Lane. Removal of roughly 1,100 dead and dying fall hazard trees along Auberry Road from State Route 168 to Bald Mountain Road. All of that's completed. These next items we plan on having completed by the end of summer or the end of winter 2022. Approximately 20 fire escape roads in and around Shaver area south of Dinky Creek Road scheduled for hazard tree removal and maintenance work. Removal of roughly 400 to 500 fall hazard trees within the right-of-way along Huntington Lake Road from State Route 168 to the community of Big Creek. Construction of shaded fuel breaks, 200 foot each side of the road for 5.4 miles along Auberry Road from Acorn Road to State Route 168, and for 4.8 miles along Peterson Road from Toll House Road to the National Forest boundary. The project is currently in the environmental review. That project is. And finally, removal of hundreds of fall hazard trees and tons of ground fuels from private property that pose danger to public infrastructure or personal property. This is an ongoing program that the county has right now. So again, going back to about 2018, the county has spent just under, or has received just under $12 million in grants, and we have right now several projects. We received some fire prevention program funding for the 1920 and 2021 years that we continue to spend down. We've got roughly about $4.5 million left in these pots, and we continue to look for projects to try to provide more protection to the mountain communities. So I will stop there and let you know that it is a top priority for the county to continue to focus on our forests. I have a dream that one day our state and federal government will work together. I'm a firm believer in local control, and to the extent that the U.S. Forest Service, our National Park Service, all can be partnering together with the state and the county, I think we can deliver much better services to you. So thank you for having me. At this time, I'd like to invite Dustin Hale up. He is our chief and our hero.
Good afternoon, everybody. Assemblyman, thank you for the invite, and thank you for everybody coming out and visiting with us today. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what have we done in this area, pre-Creek Fire and post. And so, as you guys are fully aware, we have committed resources between our local partners, our federal partners, state partners, to do fuel modifications work. And so we have many fuel breaks and fuel modification treatment areas that we've been working on over the last several years, even this winter. Even though there was work done on the Creek Fire fuel breaks, they're growing back. And as you guys are driving up 168, you see the fuel conversion where it's going from timber to brush. And so that is a concern for us because as that fuel model changes, it's a little bit more susceptible to fire. And so we have to make sure that we maintain what we do. And so, in brief, we have been working on the Shaver South fuel break, the Alder Heights fuel break, Beale Fire Control Road, Acorn Sugarloaf fuel break, and Comstock. And so this winter we've been, like I said, a combination of National Guard hand crews, our Cal Fire Fuels crews, private contractors to facilitate a lot of these fuel modification works. And what that really means is whether it is mastication, live burning, there's different ways that we do these fuel modifications. We're going to limb the trees up, and so one of the things that we want to do is try to make it safe and that we can support any major fire that comes through and utilize that area as a defensible stop. And they do work. We're standing and living proof of why fuel modifications work. And so as this year, through the legislative process, we have been given a new hand crew in Fresno. It's a partnership with the California Conservation Corps. So that will be new to our fleet. In addition to, we have 4 National Guard hand crews. They are in the process of moving to the elementary school. We have partnered with Sierra Elementary, and we have a lease with them. And so we are rehabbing that facility. and that will be the new home for our guard crews, and hopefully as we continue to progress, that will be the name of the Toll House Fire Center. So all of our engines are staffed. We have 13 frontline engines, 3 dozers, and we have also been given additional aircraft fleet. So we have a Type 2 helicopter in Sanger, and we now have a Type 1 air tanker, which holds 3,000 gallons at Fresno. So with our partnerships between us and the Forest Service, the Forest Service has a Type 1 air tanker as well, and they have a Type 1 helo tanker, which is a helicopter, and they have their own Type 2 helicopter as well. So in our region, we are fully prepared with air assets to combat a fire. And so we always get asked the question, what can we do as residents to help? And so we, as firefighters, we train hard to protect the citizens, the property, and the environment of California. But what the residents can do is they can have a plan, they can be prepared, and they can home harden their house, whether it's through defensible space or through some of the building programs that are out there. There's grant projects through OES and CAL FIRE. If you have a wood shake roof, there's programs out there to retrofit those roofs to the new fire resistant materials. Make sure your landscape is fire resistant, and just be prepared. And like I said, have a plan. That's probably the biggest thing. And I know that the plans that we have, and in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department, we want to get everybody out as safely as we can, working with the Sheriff's Department for evacuations. So if the residents have a plan prior to, it just assists the Sheriff's Department that much more, so that we can work on fighting the fire and they can get you guys out safely. But one thing that I do want to stress, though, is approximately 95% of all wildfires in California are human caused. And so what that means is we're the culprit of it, and it's preventable. And so if we can all have a higher level of protection, prevention's the key. The more prevention we do, the preventative maintenance we can do on our landscapes, the better we can be. So, is there any questions that I can answer?
Yeah.
Sure.
California Conservation Corps purchased the Auburn Elementary School several years ago, and it died on the vine. What are the plans for that, please?
So it didn't die on the vine. It's still, I'm sure Sullivan Patterson may be able to give a little more info, but there is budget change proposals that have their capital outlay to be hopefully funded this budget cycle. And so it is still a process. Their plan is to rebuild that and either demolish or retrofit a lot of what they're going to do. But there is plans on the CAL FIRE side to have 2 hand crews at that facility as well. So it's still moving forward.
Thank you.
You mentioned the night flying helicopters, the new ones. Will you have access to those?
Yeah, we have access to them currently. They are the one that is fully trained is out of McClellan, and so it will be a coordinated effort if we need to request that for a night flying mission. We just make our requests and we can get them.
What's the most effective route for fuel reduction on private roads? To get funding for that. I know that where I live, pardon me, near Toll House, we've had a couple areas that on our dirt road where that's happened, but there's room to do a little bit more. So what path is the most effective to try to get funding for that?
So I would look, if you go to the CAL FIRE website, there's it's called CFIP.
Say again?
CFIP. And that is it's a grant program for the private properties. But what really helps and what gains a lot of strength is if you and your neighbors can partner together. Because if we can go house to house to house and create some sort of a buffer or a fuel break, if we have one house that wants to participate, one house that doesn't, it makes it very difficult. And so that's where we see the biggest value is when we do these projects and we go through the landowners and they want to work with us. We can't do work on private property without the landowner's permission and consent. And so the bigger chunks of land where you can get a handful of parcels next to each other, that's where you're going to get your biggest bang for the buck, and it'll also help elevate your status in the review process in order to get those grants. All right, well, thank you for your time and thank you for coming out this morning.
Up next is Annie Barber with the United Policyholders. So happy you could be here, Annie. Thank you.
For those of you who are not familiar with United Policyholders, we're a nonprofit advocacy group that comes in and helps people navigate their insurance after a disaster. We give you all the layouts on how to get the most out of your insurance, how to rebuild. We have webinars that are amazing now, that anything on our website from, sorry, that's my dog. From, just let her come. Come here, just lay down. Sorry, it's kind of like bringing a toddler. So we have everything on our website, from how to read and understand your policy, where you can sit down with your policy in front of you and take yourself through it. We know that these policies are written by attorneys, and the minute that any of us read them, your eyes glaze over. You have no concept of what they're talking about, and they do that on purpose. So we have this amazing website. That would be your first step in any part of, we have preparedness on there, we have recovery on there, and we have advocacy. One of the things that we've been working really hard with a group on is what this gentleman over here spoke to, which is getting the insurance industry to accept a set of standards, mitigation standards, to ensure that you will be able to have insurance. Now, what I heard this morning was much more promising than where I thought we were. We figured we were still a year or two out. We have presented to the insurance industry. We didn't get pushback. I have a list of the things that we presented that that people could do that would ensure that you get insurance. This California Fair Plan, it's not fair. It's a dumping ground. The insurance industry said, or California said, if you want to do business in California, you have to be willing to take a piece of the high-risk areas. You don't get any customer service with it because they don't care if they have you. Your fees are outrageous, and it isn't fair. Now, on the other side of that, I'd like to tell you that we're working in Colorado. Colorado doesn't have a California Fair Plan. So if they get dropped, they have to sell their property. So as much as we hate the California Fair Plan, at least we have that. If you have a mortgage, it's instrumental in you being able to continue to own your home. So the things that we have on this list, and I have one of these for absolutely every one of you, is a Class A fire rated roof. Install ember resistant vents. That's huge. The embers are what cause so many of these fires with the winds. You can go out and get 1/16 inch wiring and just staple it, tack it around those vents and around your chimney. Make sure those embers can't get underneath your deck. Don't have wood product, don't store stuff under your decks. And if you cannot have a deck at all, if you're rebuilding, that first 5 feet is the most important 5 feet that you have. Rock, pavers, cement, dirt. You don't want anything growing up your house. You don't want any laddering. You don't want trees over your house. You want to cut those limbs back. So if you start with that first 5 feet, then you work your way out. Those are the most important things. Then it goes 5 to 30, 30 to 100 feet, 100 to 200. The whole point of this is if you can protect your house and your neighbor protects their house, there will be a fuel break. And so if you guys work together as a community, and sometimes that may mean knowing who in your community needs help and banding together to go help them do the mitigation on their house. You guys are a small community. You know each other. You know who needs help and who doesn't. Also, as they were talking about, your evacuation plans, have that plan. Know who your neighbors are. Know what resources they can bring to the table. Know who your most vulnerable population is. And know that you're going to need to help those people so that the fire department can deal with the fire. Because if they have to save people, the community will be gone. So that's the number one thing that we're working on, that we find that is so important in this day. I work in 18 different counties, Dixie Fire, Caldor Fire. I see over and over again the issues that small rural communities have, whether it's in rebuilding, retaining insurance, being able to afford the insurance, the mitigation. All of that is extremely, it's a work in progress. We had seen these fires in a community like mine, which is in Santa Rosa, the 2017 Tubbs fire. We still had a city around us to help bring us back. We had a highly mortgaged subdivisions that went down, and so we had the resources to come back. You guys have your own set of challenges, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate all those, and we're getting better at it, unfortunately. So be prepared. Do the work. You can't wait for government to be able to do everything because they just do not have the resources. Have an evacuation plan. Don't go back for anything. Nothing is as important as your life. I would implore you to take pictures of your home, videotape, open every drawer, every closet. We don't have model homes. Move that stuff that's in the way of the stuff that you've got buried, okay? And save that. Write 5 phone numbers down on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope and put it in your glove compartment, because if you get out that door and you can't find your phone's not charged, we don't remember phone numbers anymore. We don't have a way to contact people. We don't have a way to check in to make sure the neighbor next door got out. All of these things, little things, can make a difference if it comes to having to evacuate again. I don't know if you guys have an evacuation tags yet, but in a lot of these rural communities, they'll give out evacuation tags, and you will hang those on your mailbox so that the fire department knows that they don't have to go down and risk their life and stop what they're doing to make sure that everybody's out of that area. And with all your little nooks and crannies, those could be really beneficial. Call your insurer. Make sure you understand what's in your policy, and whether you can increase it if you want to, what it takes to increase it. If you raise your deductible, will that bring the price down? Write all your questions down first. And when you're finished with that conversation, follow it up in an email. We found in Colorado, many people called their insurance agent and said, I'd like to raise my insurance. The insurance industry, on a pretty level field there, denied them. But they didn't have an email that said that. So they have no way of saying, I reached out and I asked for more insurance and you denied me. But if they had followed up with I talked to you on this date and I asked if I could increase my insurance and you said it wasn't feasible, you have documentation. Anytime you're dealing with your insurance company, I recommend you have that documentation. This is a business contract. We're thinking that, State Farm's on our side. They have all these great slogans to let us know that they're going to take care of us. But they're a business. And that's their number one priority, is business. If you have a great agent, that's wonderful. But that agent is not going to be the person that you deal with after a loss. They don't want you dealing with that person. They want you to deal with the adjusters that come in that don't have a relationship with you. So you need to make sure that, yeah, that's a great agent, but I have to follow it up and I have to do my due diligence of making sure I understand absolutely everything that I'm insured for, or not. We all know about go bags. Take a picture of we all have cell phones, hopefully we get out with them. Take pictures of your prescriptions so you can call them in, so you know what you take. If something were to happen, you have all the information right there at your fingertips. We have a host of links on this card to our website on how to shop when you're dropped, mitigation standards, the RAP program, which is a group of mitigation fire departments that get together and we try to brainstorm once a month. How do we navigate in this new world of ours? Things to ask your insurer. There's a list of things to ask your insurer here. And I would just recommend that you seriously go through line by line with a piece of paper, write down the answers. Again, email them. 80% of people with insurance are underinsured. So we just want to make sure that once we get the data, we want to be able to react to that and correct it. Do we have any questions? Yes.
A question about solar panels. Someone in Patterson was talking about the exemption to save us from having to have solar panels. So for those of us who have the clause in our policy that covers new laws, new requirements, does that mean we're not going to be able to use that money for solar panels if that mandate goes through?
It varies. There is a lot of communities, the Slater Fire, Dixie, Caldor is all trying to push this through. Paradise pushed it through. There is a way of allowing the county to, as the permits come in, to, what's a word I want to use? To make sure that to pick and choose, okay? So that if you have that code of ordinance, code upgrades, law of ordinance, insurance, that you don't get negated, which does happen and it has happened, but now we've learned about that. So for those of you who don't understand that, what that means is that if they do a blanket where they say, okay, we're going to kick this back to the 2018 codes and you won't have to do solar, a lot of the times the insurance industry jumps on that and tells someone who has that coverage, okay, well, it's not required. So now you don't get to use that, which is truly unfair. But I know that in Santa Cruz, they've done case by case. They've dove into the canopy, whether it would, in the long term, whether it would even be effective after the trees grow back. So that's something that you need to speak with Mr. Patterson, wherever he went, and voice your concern and see how that can be addressed. Yes?
Is there a possibility of an insurance co-op for the people of the mountains of Oregon? I had this in northeastern Oregon. I had a packing operation up there.
Yep.
Horseback, Snake River Canyon, Wallowa Mountains. We had an insurance co-op that covered the rafting trips, the packers,
Yep.
everybody was covered with one plan.
I'm not gonna
Everybody
say,
paid into it.
I'm not gonna say no, because we even have communities where I live that have HOAs that all utilize the same insurance. So my answer is, yeah, I think that that's a possibility. Do I see it coming about very quickly? I do not. I think it needs some advocacy.
We need an entrepreneur that,
Yes.
is in the insurance business and pick it up and run with it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I will go back and we'll put that on the table for our founder and see what she thinks about it. See if she can kind of, put it into some of the meetings and see what kind of feedback she gets. That's a great question. Thank you.
If you're insured, I'm insured with a combination of California Fair Plan and Allstate, and the premium is astronomical.
Yep.
So with the you talked about mitigation, the 16th-inch screens, etc. And that was if you were denied. Well, let's assume you're insured. If you meet the mitigation, can you argue for a reduction in the premium because you're lower risk?
Well, that's what we're working on ultimately, but honestly, if we just keep people insured through the normal channels, not the California Fair Plan, that in itself will be amazing. So we're doing one step at a time. The discounts would be great. My opinion, mitigation is for all of you guys. If you want to make sure that you've done everything you can to come back after a fire and your house will be standing, that's what the mitigation's for. Going through a fire for anybody who has here is it's not fun. It's not what you wish to do, was to build a new house. You do not want the stress. My community, the stress has been phenomenal. We've had a lot of emotional, physical, mental issues. And it's true throughout any community that has one of these fires. It's very traumatizing. So if you can have a fire, come back and say, well, damn it, my trees are gone. That is something to cheer about. Okay, the trees are gone, we can regrow those. But we don't have to go through the stress, the financial hardship of rebuilding a house.
Can I interrupt before our next question?
Yes.
If our remaining speakers who are sticking it out in the sun want to come to the shade or move anywhere, we want you to be awake and alert when you
When it's your turn.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Any other questions? Ari?
Jim, you mentioned they're talking about regulations on the insurance to avoid discrimination. I'll use that word for sake of a better word. Does that apply only to my Allstate insurance, or will that also apply to the Fair Plan? It sounded like Fair Plan is a totally separate animal from what you were talking about.
Did you want to answer that?
Yeah, we have just, like yesterday,
Friday. Yeah.
notified by the DOI of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and the details are not all that clear. And we're continuing to stay in touch with them, and we're going to get all the information we can and utilize it in building our constituent services response to it. We're in the beginning stages of that, but we're paying very close attention to it. We have people up in the Sacramento office that have relationships with the Department of Insurance. So again, this is new to us. I think it's a good step. I think the insurance companies might resist it, but the reality is that I think the DOI's setting in motion some things where you're going to have an opportunity to push back. You're going to have an opportunity to have members of the legislature like us, plead your case and work it and help you navigate through. We first need to understand, what are we navigating through? And that's in the details, and we're going to stay on it. And it's one of the top priorities of my office here with my district director.
And I'll jump on that a little bit. It's a work in progress, is really what it comes down to. The insurance industry at one time said there's so many fires in California, we might just pull out of California. But again, they're a business, and look at what's happening all around us. We're talking Arizona, Colorado, Washington, Oregon. They're going to have to accept something to stay in business and to still be as affluent as they are in these communities. So I think that their idea that, okay, it's only California that's on fire has gone out the window, which is to our advantage. Unfortunately, it's not to other states' advantages. Yes. No, but you're not being ungrateful. We have to be thankful that we have a last resort, but on the same token, they've priced it out of many people's range. I really implore you that if you're on the California Fair Plan, every 3 to 6 months, if you're computer literate, go on and see if anybody has opened up. If you aren't comfortable doing that, get an insurance broker, and every 6 months ping them and say, hey, can you check again? Insurance industries are really weird. Insurance companies, they open and close writing insurance in certain places. Right now, State Farm is writing almost everywhere. I'm not saying you're gonna get it for State Farm here, but that's what they do. They do this. They close it up, they drop people. A year later, they come back and they start writing again. It's really strange. They only want a certain percentage of the risk in an area. And so when they write it up and they write policy after policy, all of a sudden then they go, oh, we've exceeded. Let's drop some, bring it back into a fair risk pattern. So I implore you to really just keep on that. Sure. Anybody else? Yes. So I would love for you to, we're gonna move on so everybody gets a chance to, I'm gonna be at this table over here when we're finished. I would love for you all to come by and get this new flyer that we have printed up expressly for these kind of events on mitigation, your insurance, and if you have any other questions, I'll be over there waiting for you. Thank you for your time.
Take your dog.
I know.
And now we'll have Kathy Curtis from the Fresno County Sheriff's Department talking about evacuation. She's also going to address how to get your pets out safely, information from the animal disaster team.
Thank you and good morning. I am Lieutenant Kathy Curtis with the Sheriff's Office right here in Fresno County. I am also the area commander for the mountain area, which includes, of course, Shaver Lake and the foothill areas a little bit down below us. I always appreciate it when the communities come together ahead of the disaster to kind of talk about what we're going to do and talk about what the community needs, what we as the responding agencies need from you to do as well. So thank you very much for being here today. And on behalf of Sheriff Mims, it's fair for me to say also that the Sheriff's Office, while we don't work with a fuels reduction, we absolutely support the fuels reduction. Because if there is anything that can be done to allow us a few extra minutes to get into a home and to do the evacuations, we will absolutely take those few extra minutes. Because as many of you witnessed in something horribly catastrophic, such as the Creek Fire, every minute counts. And if we have 5 extra minutes, 10 minutes, even 2 minutes, it helps us get more of those people out. So thank you for all of the work that is being done as far as the management and the fuels reduction. Very important even to us. Many of you probably know already that the primary role of law enforcement in a wildfire is going to be evacuations, and then also the security of those areas after the evacuations are done. Not much has changed as far as the ways in which we will do the evacuations. There's 2 different types of notifications that you may hear come from the Sheriff's Office. If we have enough time, which means if the fire is far enough away and we can give you a little bit of additional time, we will issue what we call a warning. And the warning is just that. The warning is kind of an advance notice that we might be evacuating you. What we encourage people to do though is to heed the warning. If you need a little bit extra time to get out, if you've got some additional friends, family, neighbors who need additional help out, that's probably the time to start helping them get out. If you have extra animals that you need to get out, if you need to be hooking up livestock trailers and starting to move animals out, that's probably the time to do it. We will not be ordering anybody out when we give a warning. We will not be controlling any roadblocks at the warning level. People can come and go freely. So really, this is kind of your advance notice to just take the opportunity, if we can give it to you, to kind of use that time and get as much stuff out as you can. Now, I preface that by saying, if we can. We can't always give a warning. It would be ideal if we could, but depending on where the fire starts and what that fire is doing, Sometimes we may have to go straight into an evacuation order. And that evacuation order is the second kind of notice that you may be receiving from law enforcement. The evacuation order is something that we do to clear out an area when lives are at stake, when it becomes too dangerous to be in that area. And when we decide that we're going to do evacuation orders, we do it really in conjunction with the fire agencies. We are completely embedded with the fire agencies right from the beginning of an incident. We listen to their recommendations. We listen to what the fire agencies believe a fire is probably going to do, and then we implement those orders and those evacuations based on those recommendations from the fire agencies. So when the orders happen, that is when we are telling everybody it's time to go and you have to leave. We always get asked the question if you can refuse to evacuate. Able-bodied adults can refuse to evacuate their own property. And I say their own property because that does not mean organized camps. You know, campers that are coming up here, that's not their own property. They have to go. Juveniles, if you're not 18, they need to leave. Elderly adults that are